You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Welcome to another episode of the NRL Allstars podcast. Barnesy here, back for another TLT. We didn't have one last week. It's been a tough couple of weeks for me. I've got to be honest. I'm really sorry, everyone. I've tried to get a few little podcasts out here and there, but it has just been a tough couple of weeks with work and other things popping up, and it's a frantic part of the year. But we are back. I got Mikey back on board. Mikey, welcome back, mate, for another TLT round 21. Not many weeks left to make these decisions.
Oh, yeah, it's good to be back as always, Barnesy. It's a great week for me to come back on. I would say poor because if you had me on last week, I had a cracker week. This week, I had a very poor week, but only managed to go down to 2,800. So I'm still happy there with the rank, but I'll be quite frank. Like, I'd love to come home with a wet sale and get a top 1K, but my focus is now head-to-head. I'm in, like, so many fringes right in the 8 in about 9 out of 10 of them. And so, like, these next 2 weeks are so key, but with the minimal trades, I think it's also important to ensure that for those finals weeks, you're going to have the right teams and make sure you got to look at who's got the best draw in that time, especially for the head-to-head. So I think I'm right now maybe like 60-40, like 60% head-to-head, 40% overall, but can't help it. And this week is a cracker of a week because I know you're not in the boat, Barnesy, but for a lot of us that have the Hughes and Hines, it's hard to try and figure out a way to clear him. And I know I need him. And yeah, I've had a look at a couple ways and I don't like any of the ways to obtain Cleary, but we'll deep dive into why I don't like the Hughes sell and all that other stuff when we get in a bit later.
Well, Mikey said before the episode that me and him would disagree a bit this week, and he's already shown me we're going to disagree. It's going to be great. So everyone listening, please make sure you support us by jumping onto iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube and hitting subscribe. It really, really does help. The numbers have been climbing really nicely, so thank you very much to everyone. And before we get started, I'll mention our great sponsor of the All-Stars podcast, oneworldcourier.com.au. Go and check them out, because if you or the business that you work for has any freight, shipping, courier needs, they are the people to talk to. It's a compare the market website that they use, so if you sign up for a free account today, put in whatever you want to ship. It'll tell you exactly all the couriers available and what the costs are. You select whatever one you want, and then One World Courier take care of it all for you. When you sign up, make sure in the free text area where it says, "Where did you hear about us?" you put NRL All-Stars podcast. That way they'll know that you came from this show and they'll take great care of you. First up, Mikey, you already alluded to it. You had a tough week last week. I need to use this as a bit of a therapeutic discussion to try and get me happy about last week. I made good trades. I got Dylan Edwards in and I scored pretty well. I did move up a little bit. 1271 wasn't bad, but I just felt, even though I got Dylan Edwards in, because I didn't captain him and I had the captaincy on him and I took it off because I was on my way to Shark Park because I'm a Cronulla local, and was watching the Roosters Sharks game, and I went, no, I can't leave it on Dylan Edwards. I've got to put the C on Teddy if I'm going to the game. And I just wanted to have a bit of fun with it. And geez,
can't believe you did that, Barnesy. I was so shocked when I looked that you didn't double down on it.
I should have. And look, to be honest, if I thought about it a bit more, I probably would have gone back to Edwards. I just didn't think about it enough. I had a really busy week, and I'll tell you what concerned me as well. A lot of people were on Teddy, and I thought that he was probably due. And I really thought, like, on the way to the game, it was a really nice night. It was dry. It was like just perfect. I thought it's going to happen. Teddy's going to go 140, and I just couldn't miss it. But yeah, in hindsight, terrible decision. And I also got Lachlan Galvin in and played him, which for a high 80 score, I was really super happy with. So yeah, it was a good week in trades, but just felt a little bit like a draw.
Yeah, personally for me, for trades, I just couldn't find the way to fit Edwards in, as I wasn't willing to sell Tom, and I'm happy with it. He's got a 3-round average of 90, and the main thing with Tom is, yeah, his draw might seem tough, but I don't mind the matchup against the Bulldogs this week. But that head-to-head finals week, I was looking at it, and I was like, Tom at like 11% ownership during those head-to-heads, I feel like if he continues just whether or not he slots back to fullback, I think he could be an ace up my sleeve that can really help me there. So I knew watching, it's like the same feeling when Pappy went nuts this year and I didn't have him. I knew he was going to go big. If I bought him, I would have put the Cerny, but I just didn't have the room to do it. So I got in Hudson Young. I'm not unhappy with that. And I went double Raider. I went KO Weeks from Brimson. And my thought process, although it didn't work out this week, my thought process with that one was I have 2 Titans as halves. I'm not going to play 2 with the way they're playing in my reserve. So I'm going to pick 1 each week. It'll be hard for me to pick Brimson over Campbell, even with how they're going, just because Campbell has the goals. And I believe Campbell's got a bit of a larger ceiling if the Titans have a one-off high-scoring game. So that's why I went to Weeks. It's a bit of a play. I'll hold him and I'll just play him on matchups. And the way I look at it, my side's so stacked that it didn't bother me picking up 4 Canberra Raiders, although they've got to buy in round 24. I've got a lot of... So I come into this week with 190K still. So big plans this week. I don't know who I want to get, but it's just trying to work out who to sell because I think a lot of the obvious sells to maybe say get a loan.
Yeah, get a Lomax. I think you said little technical issue, but that's all right. Mikey, I like Lomax as well. We're going to talk about him shortly. I have to say it is a tough time of year, and we've felt it the last week or two with all the outs and everything, and we've got multiple players out again for a long time. It is always a tough final third because you've also got the sit start and the depth and the captaincies become really difficult. And we're seeing that now, aren't we? And it's going to be a bugger of a couple of months to finish on because some of these sit starts, you just know that they're going to kill us. And I was versing so many teams that had, 85, 80, and then a centre wing that scored 40 that they actually started. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, I guess the pro, like turning the con into a pro in this instance with the depth that you might have, utilize it. If you're trying to win some head-to-heads, use it for head-to-head. For example, if I'm going up against a Karapani this week and I'm losing and I need a big play, I might play one of my pods in Lehigh late instead. Although it might not work, you can utilize your depth, ensuring you're playing. If you're like 50-50 with 2 of them, play the ones that play earlier. So then back game, you can use it to win head-to-heads. And although it might not help you overall, but I think that's going to be the key feature. That is why I'm being careful to hold as many pods as I can to use that to utilize me. Like guys that I know have a high ceiling on their day against the right matchup. So I think that's the key there. But yet again, it's still hard to hit. Like it's a gamble as some such.
And I think that you raised a good point with how you're going to focus mainly on head-to-head now. And if teams are focusing on head-to-head now, it's super important to look at it week to week for those teams that are fringe because the future really doesn't make any difference to you. And a good example, as I mentioned, I'm writing for the Sporting News at the moment, Sporting News Australia, and my last Supercoach article for them last week was a whole heap of pods that I really liked as downgrade options. And one of my favourite ones that I wish I could have done it, Mikey, you would have loved it last week if we got to talk about it. Jarrell Skelton was my favourite one last week. He was like 360,000 versus the Gold Coast Titans. And I was like, I know he's going to score a try, at least one. And he ended up scoring 2 and had 3 line breaks, scored 109 points for 360,000. That's awesome. But that's such a 1 week play, though, because he played the Gold Coast Titans and then obviously he's playing for the Tigers. You don't want to hit him in too many matchups. So certainly, last week was the week to do it because he had that Gold Coast Titans matchup. But you got to use that same sort of thinking for these following weeks if you're head-to-head. If you're must-win now for the next few weeks and then going into finals, you've got to look at these 1 week plays and you've got to look at making them now. And that's why it's important to also have trades. Let's go straight into the trade market, mate. Because it's a real big one this week and there's a lot to talk about. There is so many injuries, it is ridiculous. So pretty much all the trade outs mainly, for the most part, are guys that are hurt. I'm interested in your take, though, just as a general strategy with some of them. So guys like Tino's the second most traded out player. His injury is meant to be around 3 to 4 weeks. Now, with us in round 21 and only 27 rounds, it doesn't leave too many weeks, but I'm curious as your thoughts on someone like that, because to me, if you're really short on trades, you're almost better off just leaving those type of guys there for the end of the season because in the next 2 months, if you're short on trades and you can't really make many more, that guys are going to get hurt still and guys are going to get suspended. And having someone like Tino come back in the last month, provided he does, I'm just using as an example, maybe he gets ruled out for the season. But, those 2 or 3 week guys, it's almost worth if you're low on trades to hold them. And if you're high on trades, then it's a massive advantage to be able to trade them out, obviously.
Yeah, I caught both the injuries this week with Tino and Kolomatangi. I'm going to sell Kolomatangi mainly just to build a bit of extra money to get Lomax next week, potentially. Maybe not this week. I can afford it this week, but if I can make a bit of money, get a second row that I can play that has a really juicy head-to-head matchup coming up, then you know what I mean? It means I can sell someone that I don't want to keep. Like maybe after this week's matchup, I can get rid of Karapani instead and have someone better for the run home. So with Tino, I don't have any plans to sell him. I'm wary that he's going to come back, 4-week injury. The only way I see him coming back is if Des wants to avoid the wooden spoon. Maybe he does come back. It just depends how he recovers from it. But I think I'd rather hold on. The only other instance, if I get to a stage where I do all right with my trades and I need a bulk bit of money to upgrade a hooker when Tom Starling's on the buy, and if Sandon doesn't keep this starting spot, which he's picked back up this week, then I might just nuff Tino down, take the 300k and use that. But that's something I'll do at the very end. So I'm with you. I think you should hold on to it and just wait. Unless if you've got over 10 plus trades, I'd probably, I think nothing Tino could be pretty handy, especially if using him as a front row, second row dual. I don't mind it, but there is a couple of, if you've got the flexibility to grab a center, there are some center wings at really base prices, and I would take a hit on one of them. I don't have that flexibility, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd be looking at doing something like that.
Yeah, and it's a real shame for owners because Tino's gone down almost 500k. So the value is not there. It's going to be his lowest price point of the season, just about. So it would have been better if it was an injury like a month ago. We might have had more of a chance in the State of Origin series then too. But it's a bit of a tough time to sell for him. The other thing too is that if you hold him and he doesn't come back, it's still a really easy trade that you can make in the final month where you've got somebody that's high value that you can go to most players or anyone if you have half decent banks. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Now, certainly if you've got the trades you can sell, that's fine. All the other guys are pretty self-explanatory because most of them are out for the season, unfortunately. One guy that isn't is James Tedesco, the 7th most popular trade out at the moment. And I have to say I've seen a little bit in the social media universe of people that are deciding to sell Tedesco. I think that it's out of desperation and also reactionary for last week. I'm going to say I don't just think it's a mistake. I think it's a massive mistake. I understand the thinking, Mikey, because I'm potentially going to sell someone like Munster. But to me, and just to clear up so nobody comes at me on social media and says, hey, you're going to sell other keepers, but then you're saying that your keeper that you want to keep isn't a sell. Why not? It's the same thing. It's not, because to me, the very top echelon guys, you don't sell. You have to have them because it hurts too much not to. And then the tier 2 guns, it's fair game if you want to try and get off some highly owned guys and whatever. My problem with Tedesco is coming into last week, Mikey, he was the number 1 averaging Supercoach player in the game. After he's 37 last week, he is still right there behind Payne Haas with Herbie and May are like 0.1 and 0.7 points above him on per game averages. He's right there at the top of the Supercoach game. And that's after his worst game of the season by far. People have mentioned, he's not been that impressive. Before last week, he went 84, 77, 107, 97, and 91. Before last week, he had a 5-round average of 90 plus as a 5-round average. He has been going fine. It has not been a problem whatsoever for him. It was one bad week, and people reference the Roosters draw. You know what? The Roosters have had bad runs of draw the entire season, and he has still managed to be the number 1 Supercoach player. I get it, because I think, Mikey, people are being a bit desperate or reactionary, or they're trying to fit in our mate Cleary as you're trying to do at the moment.
Now, I've got a bit of a plot twist for you, and the thing that I knew we were going to disagree on today is this topic right here. Now, I'm on the James Tedesco sell team. So right now, I'm potentially selling him out. And look, everything you said, I agree with, except the fact that, he's been going fine, but he got saved in 2 of those weeks. That 84 and a 77 last-minute tries that he got in the depth, and he's definitely got that on his system. The only reason I'm considering selling is I've got Scott Drinkwater. His draw's too good. The Cowboys suck, but he's just polling points, and I think he will hurt me more. Second point, same with Tom Todorovic. That's a pod that I think I can run home hard with. A Tedesco to Cleary move lets me keep Hughes, and it lets me keep Hines, and I think it's going to be not many people are going to have that 3 halfback. So it's tempting. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but I am definitely teased with the idea. Don't get me wrong. The flip side of the coin here is Tedesco could absolutely break everything. He could break my season. But you did say their draw is tough, but their draw gets tougher. They play Melbourne twice. Not only do they play Melbourne after a loss, and then they finish with Melbourne. Manly at 4 points apart can be anything because the Manly, if they can grind a gritty game, maybe Tedesco can score low. The Dolphins game scares the crap out of me because he went nuts against them earlier. Then the Bulldogs and Parramatta in 24-25 the Parramatta in 25 is probably the scariest. My thought process, I really like Hughes' 3 weeks. You might look at it and say Melbourne's draw is tough, but the reason that wants to make me keep Hughes is his average without Munster is ridiculous. So I don't want to sell him this week. The second point is versus the Eels next week. And then the point after that, and Eels, they've got Yongi out. They've got more injuries. So I like those 2 matchups. And the third one, his highest average in Supercoach is against the Brisbane Broncos. He plays them twice. So I really think having Hughes, Hines, and Cleary, all 3 of them, I really love their draws. I think it could be a super move over the 3 weeks. But I know that I'm willing, I've got 7 trades before this week. So it's not heaps, but I feel like it's a bit more than most. Or a lot of people that I know, 5. I feel like 7's all right. All I really need to complete my team is Cleary and Lomax. So I'm thinking potentially say goodbye to Tedesco for Melbourne, Manly, Dolphins, maybe the Bulldogs, and bring him back for the Parramatta one, where I know he then goes Melbourne and Bunnies. But that Bulldogs para is where I think I might need him, and I think that's when I'll be willing to sell Jerome Hughes. So I haven't locked that in. My other way is just to sell Hughes to Cleary, but I'm just looking at it, and I think Hughes is going to go massive in one of these next 3 games and probably keep a higher average than what Tedesco can in the next 3 weeks. Look, I know it's bold, but I wish there was another way to do it. But I think it's one of 2 options. And right now, I'm maybe 1% more in that boat. But that's why I wanted to talk to you today to knock out all the craziness. But look, I can see why people want to do it. I know all the risk that comes with it, but you know how I play Barnesy, and every now and then I take this crazy move, and I don't know why. I just feel a HIA coming on for Tedesco, and if it happens this week, I'm a genius.
I think he's turning up this week, so I'll just say it. I think
it's not happening. It's not happening.
I think it is 50. Super overrated. The people are getting carried away with the Roosters draw. I don't think it's a good draw, and I've said I don't think it's a great draw that they've got, but I don't think it's anywhere near a terrible draw, and that's what I'm hearing a lot of people say. This week, they're at Allianz Stadium, okay? Melbourne has Munster out. Melbourne does not look strong on paper. They have not played that well lately. Who they lose? They just lost to Manly. And that was at Amy Park. This is at Allianz Stadium. The Roosters got Sandon Smith back in the halves, which I think is a lot better. I honestly am not worried about this week with Tedesco. As far as Manly the week after, I'm actually looking forward to playing him against Manly. He's got an 84 average against him. He's got 162 high. And then he goes into a Dolphins game when in round 9 this year, he scored 130 points on him. And he could have done 160 that game. It was just crazy how much he tore them apart. Bulldogs, at least it's at Allianz Stadium, but I mean, they're not looking that great right now. And 2 out of the next 3 games, the first one is to get in the grand final. If you got to play in that one in round 25 against the Parramatta Eels at at CommBank Stadium, but he has carved the Parramatta Eels before, absolutely carved them. And I reckon that's if he scores a 200-point game this year, it'll either be in round 25 or round 27. Not saying he's gonna. I don't think that he will. Yeah, but it'll be against Parra or against South.
If you sell him, I'm willing that you got to buy him back. The only reason that I see him as a potential, what I'm considering it, is just because of you've got to fit 3 gun halfbacks into 2. If you don't have Jerome Hughes, you don't have this problem. But if you have Hughes and Hines with how they're going, it is so hard to sell one of them. And realistically, I looked at it. Can I wait a week on Cleary? No, I don't think I can. His matchups are too big, and I actually think he's got a 150 plus coming. So it just makes it hard, and
you've got to get Cleary.
Team dependent. Exactly. So it's just working out the avenue, and it's just like, can I do something against the pack and just risk it all? If I'm wrong, I'm going to use that trade to get him back.
I'm doing Turbo 10 out of 10 times.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not. There's something in my being that's telling me to hold on to Turbo, and the difference too with it, right, is the money. So if I take Turbo, then on my path to Lomax. And Lomax, I have the same fears about. I have to have Lomax for head-to-head finals. So this is the avenue that I can do it, have a stack of money, and be able to still make moves and save the trades. Like that's the key thought process that I'm going through now is it's not just how many trades you have left. It's also how much cash and you plan to get these so you can get them in one, not two. So as I said, like I'll get Lomax and Cleary in the next 2 weeks. I've got another pot I'm going to grab this week. But look, nothing's locked in, but I know it's crazy, Barnesy, and I knew you were going to disagree with me. But
it's not crazy. There's a lot of people doing it. Like there is. So it's
it's
there's
crazy.
A lot of people doing it.
It's crazy, and I've got to realize that considering it is crazy because it can absolutely torch me. But look, if I don't sell him, I'm not playing him against Melbourne this week, and I know that's crazy, but I'm sitting him if I keep him this week. And that seems crazy, but my team's too
I just
stacked.
want to chat Jerome Hughes for a minute because I've seen comments like, Teddy hasn't been as good lately, and Jerome Hughes is a must-have. Jerome Hughes is averaging 70 points on the season, and Teddy's averaging over 85. Like, it's not close. And then if you have a look at recency, yes, Jerome Hughes has been playing exceptional. 76, 101, 58, 113, 2 tons in his last 4. I will not disagree with anyone, and I think Jerome Hughes is great. Jerome Hughes is having a relatively poor season by his standards last year. He's nowhere near the player he was last year, and maybe he's going to average out and have a gangbusters second half. But I think just as easily he will revert to what he was doing before. And if we look before the last month of footy, you talk about not doing very well. 46 against South Sydney. 136 was amazing. And before that, against the Gold Coast Titans in 80 minutes, he put up 32 points. 41 points, 105, 51, 76, 61, 16 injury-affected game, 93, 51, 71. He has flat out struggled until the last month of football to get to a 70s or 80s score, aside from his few tons in his last 5 games, which have been big. So I don't actually think Hughes has been that good this season.
Yeah.
Now, if he does what he has the last 5-6 weeks, and no worries, he's good. But if he does what he did over the last month or so of footy, then if Teddy just keeps going what he's been doing, all Hughes is going to do is be as good as Teddy. He's not going to be better. And Hughes has the downside to not be that good. So, I understand what you're saying and what the masses are saying, because I say this all the time. We're banking on purchases now, what they're going to do from now until the end of the season, which is only a couple of months of football. But to me, Teddy is basically good just about every week, and that was an anomaly on the weekend. And I think that he's proven himself over enough seasons now where you can basically sort of say that.
Yeah, I disagree with the Hughes part. I think that he'll be better as the season goes on. And like I said, those 3 matchups, like this week, I think he's going to blitz the Roosters. I think he'll blitz his. No Munster. He takes all the ball. I think there's a 90-plus coming in for him. And I like the Parramatta. And he has a highest average, as I said, against the Broncos. So I like it. I hate from 24 onwards. I think it's really bad for the prelims part of the head-to-head final. So I know that if I hold on to Hughes now, I will be getting him back. I'll be selling him back to Tedesco. Might seem dumb, but I think I have enough trades to do it with what my plans are. So that's a thought process, but I think I'll crash down back to earth. Like, as I said, I'm right in the middle. I'm just kind of unloading my thoughts, and then I feel like it's good because you can see the battle of stuff. Like, you're speaking logical, and I might be speaking a little bit illogical, but there's thoughts behind it to why, you've got to explore these options. You can't just go the vanilla option.
Mate, look, I said I'm probably going to sell Munster. And
that's not crazy, but
he's still a gun though, and he's still a keeper. But I tell you, one of the reasons why I'm looking at selling Munster is because the only week that I'm excited to play the Storm players is round 22 versus Para. Like, the rest of their draw from this week onwards, the rest of their draw, none of them are great matchups where you go, geez, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I'll VC or see someone. Like, none of them are, aside from that Eels one. So, that bleeds into my Hughes argument as well. Like, if they're going to be a bit limited and they're not playing that well, it's also the reason why I decided not to spend on Harry Grant and just get a cheaper option, because I didn't love the Storm's run home with their draw. Look, we've spent way too much long talking about these guys. Let's talk about some other players. Dylan Edwards is the most traded in fullback at the moment, speaking of fullbacks, and he's coming off a 170-plus score, which was huge. Obviously, a lot of people missed out on him, and he's now gone up $115 extra $1,000. At $763,000, though, Mikey, I still think it's a pretty easy purchase. It just is going to be difficult on who you sell to him. I sold Ryan Pappenhausen to him last week. Thank God I did. I would have sold Pap a month ago if I would have bloody known that it wasn't just a calf tightness and he was going to be out for months of football. Like, this has been ridiculous. That's another story. Can you still get Dylan Edwards, Mikey?
Yeah, if you needed a fullback, I'd probably rate him for top 3. I won't be great at getting him. You've heard my fullback complaints. I won't be getting him. Could hurt me. I think Cleary will take the goals back sooner or later. Just depends. I think the week off is really going to help Cleary. But his 3-game matchup is amazing. Tigers, Titans, Knights. He can really help you get to those finals. He's going to be a good differential if you're not going up against another Edwards. The only flip side to it, if you're going to have to break the bank and not get like a afford a Lomax or some of these other guys, then I guess the flip side is they play Melbourne, Canberra, and Bulldogs in the head-to-head finals. So in 23, the first one, it's nice, but Penrith's draw is tough. With the way they're going, they can conjure up wins against any of those opponents. The big thing, too, is that game in Melbourne. It's not in Melbourne, it's at CommBank. So that's maybe the flip side if you can't get it done. But, yeah, if you want Edwards, you've got to jump this week. I wish I could. I can't do it. So makes sense that he's the top for me, especially for the guys that still have Paps. I would still look to go Paps to Edwards, even with him back this week.
Yeah, I would too. There's too many concerns with Pappenhausen, and Edwards is just going to be a better run-home player with the draw that you mentioned still with the next few weeks of games. I will say too, I think that he looks a bit healthier than he did on the run-home last year. He looked a little bit laboured. He doesn't look as laboured on this run-home. And they're going to be
a bit injured too, so he does look better.
And they're going to be relying on him. Like, they need to keep winning games, and it's a great few weeks of football. So yeah, I think it's a good one. I guess the other scenario, Mikey, to throw at you is that teams that are low on trades. If you're low on trades and you're going to trade like a Drinkwater, a Tedesco, one of these guys out to a Edwards, I would actually probably just hold. Because at the end of the day, you have missed that 170 plus score. And when you miss a score that's sort of 170 plus, it's very unlikely that player is going to hit that again this season. Just statistically, it's probably not going to happen. So You've already missed out on the massive, massive score. If you're going to sell someone like a Teddy or a Drinkwater, you might actually miss out on their 150 plus score that could come. And it's a wasted trade. If you've only got like 2, 3, 4 trades, and you're doing a sideways trade like that, even if Edwards performs a little bit better, you're probably better served as a team makeup to maybe save that for a different trade when you really need it.
Yeah, I would lower your expectations. Like, yeah, he hit 170, but the key was there was no key. Like, he become the key playmaker. All the ball was realistically going for him. And, with Nathan and Yo back, it's not going to be the shape they're going to run. He'll be a bit more support plays. I could see more. So, yeah, I definitely think he could keep up an average above 80. But I think the scores will be between that 70 to 110 mark, not the 170. As with Cleary in the side, I just can't see him reaching that unless he scores a hat-trick. But as I said, like, everything was going through him. You take out the goals and all the attacking ball that he got, then the scores are going to be a bit lower. But if Penrith can put some big scores against those opponents, and like as I said, if you got the trades, you need a fullback. It's a slam dunk move in my eyes.
Yeah, it's still a great trade, still great value. Even if he doesn't goal kick, the draw, really favours him. So I think it's a great trade. Just be careful who you're actually trading out, and very team specific on how good the trade might be. Moving along. Payne Haas and Nathan Cleary. I don't think we need to talk about Haas. I already mentioned that I think Cleary's a must-have. Do you have any serious doubts about his groin or anything? To me, like I've already shown my hand, mate. I favour him over Jerome Hughes. If I have Jerome Hughes and Hines and I need to trade one of them, I'm getting Nathan Cleary in, because I just think Cleary has always been better, and he's got a better draw, and he's goal kicking as well. So, I mean, as long as we know that he's healthy, I'm rating him as a pretty close to must buy, which I never say must buy. I'm going to say pretty close, but I really would want him this week if I didn't have him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Why do you think I've considered selling Tedesco? Because I know I need to get him. If I didn't want to sell Tedesco, I'd just wait the extra week, as I do think Hughes and Hines could be good for this week, and then make decision next week. He's like, statistically, he doesn't have huge games against Tigers. He does have a high score of 105, but as of recent, they're not great. But that doesn't mean it's there to be broken. Like, as I said, I'm feeling this big game coming. I'm not too worried about the quad. He wouldn't have, if it was that bad, he would not have backed up after Origin. He did play off the bench. He come back and played 60 minutes, and he scored that score in 60 minutes. So he's given you a bit of a taste. It's a bit of a grudge match against Luai. We get to see it again. So it's hard just not to jump on him now. Like, I think if we didn't see him this week, then maybe you have something to worry about. But of course, it doesn't take much to re-injure it in the game, but I don't think you can bet on that. I think you just need to grab him. And like I said, if I don't end up selling Tedesco, it will be Hughes to Cleary. I definitely think I need him this week. And the captains are a little tougher this week, especially with a lot of the good ones playing early. So I think he's also going to be a good one. He's also a guy you don't want to come up against in head-to-head matchups. Even with that tough draw, he's a kind of guy that I definitely want to have playing. I don't want him as a differential because he scares me just as much as Tedesco does.
And he's in 32% of teams, which is high, but normally Cleary's like 50 to 60% owned. So, I mean, this is your chance, I think, this week as well with a good matchup. And a lot of teams might be waiting a week because they can't get him in this week for whatever reason. You know, you can get one up on some of those teams bringing him in as well. You mentioned his average against the Tigers. You're 100% right. He hasn't actually had many massive games against the Tigers. 74 average, 108 high. But I'll tell you who he does have massive averages against the next two. The Titans, 91 average, 225 high. And then the Newcastle Knights, 94 average, 186 high, and both those teams are going nowhere fast at the moment with further injuries there in both of those clubs. So
Supercoach record to that 225. So you need to have him against the Titans. That's why you're like, if you're going to grab him next week for the Titans, wouldn't you just want to grab him for the Tigers this week? But I think the Hughes Hines debate that everyone's gone through, it's actually going to make him not as high earned as he normally is, which is good for people jumping on. The fact is, 3,500. Like, I expect that to double by the end of the week, but that still, I'd expect him to be like runaway number one trade into the week, even above Edwards personally.
And with such a poor season by his standards, he's still averaging 76 points a game. So, I mean,
exactly. And
he hasn't been playing well for Supercoach. He hasn't even putting up big numbers. He's still averaging 76. Like, imagine if he actually clicks on a good draw here, Mikey. Like, it's just such a scary few weeks if you don't have
They're on
Cleary.
a win streak. He's going to be tougher on himself for the run home, and Ivan will be too. They're going to be like tightening up all the whistles, and they know that they're not in the same position as they were in the previous years. And I think, you've started to see for the last 6 weeks. I feel like they're going to continue to get better. I think they're nowhere near their best, and they are getting better. So he's going to be scary enough to have. You have to get him.
I am considering this next guy. Hudson Young. It's a little bit annoying, really, because if I'm being honest, like, I would have liked to have got Young in at a much lower ownership, and people are now bringing him in droves, and it's because we've got Keon Kolomatangi out, we've got Tino Fa'asuamaleaui out now as well. It gives a really easy out, and all of a sudden the secondary stocks are pretty low in who to bring in when you've got guys like Nicker not playing this week, Dylan Lucas out for the season, and so forth. Everyone's jumping on Hudson Young. 716,000. He does have a 118 break even, Mikey, but you got Newcastle this week at GIO, which could be anything. And then he's got the Dragons the next week. So both of those games, him running at an edge, is pretty good. Against Newcastle, he doesn't actually have the best numbers, but against Saints, it's a lot better. I will say teams probably need to be a little bit careful because that round 24 bye, like, that really puts me off quite a bit. I still like him, but I would be careful how many Raiders I have. You mentioned you're going to have 4, but you've obviously planned for that. That round 24 bye is really tough. And then he does go away and play the Penrith Panthers in round 25. So, the week before the head-to-head grand final in Mudgee, if you're playing to try and get into a grand final the following week, that's not the best week to have some of these attacking Raiders players. So, yeah, I really like him as a buy, but the draw could be slightly better.
Yeah, I prefer him as a purchase last week. Obviously, if you've got all the other ones, I rate it. Just depends what you want to do with the money. But, like, obviously by getting him, you really want him to compensate on these 3 weeks. You want him to have a big week this week and a big week next week to help you make those finals. And then, because realistically after that, my expectations are a bit lower. It's handy to note that the Knights actually leak a lot more too. So their left edge defense is worse. So it probably favors Zach Hosking and stuff like that, and I really think they'll target that side, which isn't with the Hudson Young owners. But this year, as we said, the thing that I love about him is his base. Normally, if he doesn't score a try, you get in a 40 to 50. Like, now you're getting closer to 60, and that's what's good. This guy can score 1 to 2 tries. He's got a hat trick in him too. So I think he's just potential ceiling. He can really break open a head-to-head match for you. So that's why I like him a lot. And 16% is not too bad. He's probably going to go up. He'll go into the 20s this week, but he's still going to be a differential for you in some matchups for sure.
Yeah, he'll probably settle around that 21 to 22% mark, I reckon. But, yeah, not terrible ownership. Blake Brayley's only owned by 10% of teams, and he's been the breakout player of the mid-season. There's been guys that you've really had, like, really wanted to own. At the start, it was Eero followed by Farnworth. And Brayley has established himself as this middle of the season player that if you owned him for these pod matchups, you've killed it. 108, 117, 48, 97, 102. That's a 5-round average of 94, Mikey. It is outstanding. I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. I don't want to spend on him. 702,000. I love what I'm seeing from him. And I did say probably 6 weeks ago when I was looking at all these cheap hooker options, look, he's an option. The problem is that his scores all season have been really mediocre. So you're hoping that he's going to hit that purple patch of some attack, which he normally does, but he's never done it to this extent. So he's young enough where maybe he gets better, and maybe that's what we're seeing. But equally, if he reverts back to the mean, you're going to have some 40s and 50s games in there because that's what he's done all season up until the last month of footy. And that's going to be concerning if you're paying 702,000. I would be a little bit worried if I'm spending a trade at hooker and spending that money at hooker that I've already missed the boat because these last 5 weeks have been outstanding. How likely is the next 5 weeks to yield a 91, 94 average? I don't think that it will. So that's probably my concern. And then my concern starts to dwindle away when I look at the draw, Mikey. This next month, especially before they have a bye in round 25, Souths, Cowboys at Shark Park, Dragons, and then Titans at Shark Park. It's a worry not to have him with how he's playing still.
Yeah, look, I think he's a great option if you've got the money and you can do it. I have the money to do it, but then it means I say goodbye to Lomax. So if you've got all the main guys you have and then you can add Brayley, I do think that he could maybe average 20 higher than a lot of these other popular options, and it could be handy for you. It's like almost Craig Fitzgibbon has gave him a pass to run the ball, be involved in this. Like it seems like definitely a plan and a tactic, and he's killing it. And he's a big reason why the Sharks are playing good footy and they're coming home and they have to win these games. So with his matchup and draw, I think it's a great play. It's just like you said. I don't want to spend all my bank on a hooker. I'd rather just keep going with the boring Tom Starling and Sandon Smith combo for now until I have to make a trade. If I have a bunch of money and I'm happy with everyone I got, I could definitely look at a Blake play later. But I guess with the draw and how bad the Bunnies are going, I think you'd want to target him this week. I think he can have another big week this week. And man, to anyone that jumped on when he was cheap enough, what a play. Like if you caught him around the 500K, it's like you'd be laughing and you'd definitely call that one of your better trades for the year.
He was as low as 483. It just makes you sick.
Congrats to anyone that jumped onto that, because there would have been some people that got on it, and man, that just solves the hooker headache for you while everyone else is dealing with it.
I think the good thing is that he's only still got the one try for the year. So he's managed, like his tons actually, or his 3 tons in his last 5 games, none of them have a try. So that's positive. I will say one of the big things that's happened the last 5 weeks, which is why you might be able to say, oh, look, he's just gotten better, is his base has been significantly higher. So from round 2, he was always 30s and 40s base until the last 5 weeks of football. 5 weeks ago, he went 58 in raw base, 56, 50, 47, and 56. He's got a raw base there approaching mid-50s, which is really high. It's the best raw base for a hooker over that period. And before that, he was never doing that in his raw base. So his floor is a lot better. All of a sudden, his floor of 50-ish is probably 60-ish. And that makes it a lot more appealing. I think he's a number one hooker. At his price, I just think that if you don't have very many trades and you've already got a serviceable hooker there, Harry Grant or something, then you just ride with it potentially and not worry about it. I think you can do that, but he is a great trade in. Other guys, Mikey, Zach Lomax, you mentioned. Look, I think that's a really easy trade to make. Doesn't matter how bad Parrott go, he still seems to get all these ridiculous offloads going and everything else. He has gone a 5-round average of 82 and a 3-round of 90. So, he's been very consistent, and they got Mitchell Moses back this week. And I've got to say, with Lomax and the Eels this week, I know Iongi's out, but I just got this feeling they always seem to match up well against the Broncos. And I think the Mitchell Moses factor might come through a little bit for him. So I think that he can definitely score a try this week again. And he really should have scored 2 last week. He fumbled another one. So I think he's a great buy. I said before I liked him more than Valentine Holmes. I liked Carraz a little bit more. But, Lomax, I'm actually deciding between him and Hudson Young for my own team this week.
Yeah. I really want to grab him. My initial trades when the opened was Hughes to Cleary and Daniel Tupou to Lomax because that was the only way I could afford Lomax this week. And then the more about I thought about it and losing a 1% pot in Tupou, Sam Walker, the ball's all going left with Tupou. So when I dove into it, I really want to keep Tupou. I don't like selling him. So what I'm going to do is sell Colomatungi to a pod, and I'm going to grab Lomax next week and hope he can limit it to like an 80 score. But I do like his matchup against Karapani. I just think I'll wait one more week. I'll see how he goes and potentially look at him. Like Melbourne haven't been great on their edge defenses, but I'll look at him probably next week. I'll just grab him in even against the Storm because in round 23 and round 24, he plays the Cowboys and Souths. So I think I have to grab him for that. And then he matches up against Tupou, which might be a bit of a tough one. And then the Warriors, BRTS. And then finishes on the night. So it's I don't mind their run at all. And I feel like he is definitely the player. I'm coming up against him every week and he scares me not having him. So I just think this week I'm going to get a bit extra money. So next week I can sell Karapani or Ramian, probably Karapani to Lomax, just so I can keep Tupou because just for all those reasons I said, Barnesy probably agree with me. Is I think it'd be a handy pod to keep home with. I'd prefer to keep him where Karapani, like this week I'll play Karapani, but I'm going to struggle to play him against some of the other matchups. So that's kind of why I think it's worth waiting an extra week in my team.
Yeah, it's definitely finding a wait a week. I might even wait 2 weeks because while you were talking, I just tried to do my trade that I'd planned on doing, and I'm $800 short. So
that doesn't
just
say with me. So I would
mate.
have done Lehigh to him this week. I couldn't. So I think I'll just wait next week and then I can do Lehigh or Karapani. But look, we're not saying if you can do it, grab him this week for sure.
I'm an absolute tragic. Like I'll have in notes, like I write down in notes all of a sudden because I get these trade ideas and I just like write down the numbers and stuff. And I swear I had like $2,000 less for an Isaiah Yeo downgrade, and he's actually $2,000 more. So it's put me $800 out on my trades. It's probably time to talk a few pods before we quickly delve into TLT and captaincies. I've just shown my hand a little bit. Isaiah Yeo, he's really cheap at the moment, and obviously teams are looking for some downgrades from a Colomatungi and stuff. I think that he's a downgrade keeper. He averaged, 92 on the run home, or 82, I should say, on the run home last year. And he is at 536,000. So I had looked at him as a downgrade, hoping he can replicate last year's 82 run home. And with the draw that they've got, that he might hit some attack. He's only got one try this year, and it was way back in round one. Very few line breaks or attacking stats for the season so far. So I was kind of hopeful that it was a decent downgrade option and he could jack some attack. And the other guy that I was going to talk to you about is my favourite option for the run home as a pod was Brian To'o, and it has been for weeks. But he was injured on the weekend, and now I'm just not sure whether I want to put him in down the track. I know you were looking at Brian as well. Have you penciled either of these guys into your thoughts for the next couple of weeks?
Definitely both of them. I wanted to, so I was thinking of nothing, but I thought with Colomatungi, I'd rather grab, there's a few 500k second rolls as pods that I like. Yo's one of them. He's my number 2 pick. I'll reveal mine in a sec, but let's talk Penrith. Brian, I was keen on anti-podding Lomax and going him, but after the weekend and deep dive, I'm like, I've got to get Lomax. So that's going to take up my center wing trade. Mainly the reasons with To'o is I'd probably wait a week just because of his injury, and I think it's only a matter of time till he does. But the fact they keep playing him, like, that To'o can put up a big score injured still, but with his price and the high break even and the big injury risk, like, yeah, I said I'm okay with where my trades are at, but I can't afford to bring in a guy to just get injured. So I think I want to wait till next week, see how he goes, see how he looks. And if he looks like he's kind of bucked the trend with it, obviously there's going to be bringing him. I would look at, bringing Lomax and To'o in next week. I'm still looking at him, but I'm not as keen because of the injury. And right now, yeah, I just think that I've just got to wait another week. But look, yeah.
To'o
if you've got
might
lots
be
of trades, you could risk it.
To'o might be 500,000 for that Titans game, which is just... It's just hard not to do that trade.
If he's fit, like, I could definitely see myself going Lehigh to him next week for a straight. So even though I do like Lehigh's run home, but it's To'o, and I couldn't tell you the last time I haven't ran home with To'o. He's always my go-to, and maybe it's a little bit of loyalty there, but I think he can reward me with how well I think Penrith are going to go on the run home. But
can I take a stab to try and guess one of your other pod second rows?
Go for it. I think you might guess it.
Teague Wilton.
Oh, he's a good one, but no, I'm going to surprise you with mine. It's
Ooh.
actually Leka Halasima, and it might
Oh,
seem
he was
absolutely
I got to
crazy.
say, like Halasima's my guy. Wilton is the crowd's guy because the crowd pod seems to be Wilton. I don't like it. I like Halasima better. So I
Now,
like where you're going.
the reason I like Halasima is the price at 5.15 is nice. It puts my cash total up to 274 and allows me to go Karapani to Lomax depending on how they go this week. But it gives me money to play with. But the thing that I really like about it is he plays the Titans twice. The Warriors, what a game that was on the weekend. And the fact for such a young guy that he has that ability to do that, and he's done that twice this year. I like it, but the main reason I'm targeting him is have a look at their draw. I think they have the actual best
It's awesome.
round 24 to 26. They have the best head-to-head finals draw. I showed my hand earlier in the podcast at what my strategy was, and in 24, they have the Dragons, 25 the Titans, 26 the Eels, and they play the Titans this week, which, as I said, is a must-win in a lot of my opponents. So I will only be playing him on those matchups. Next week, with the depth that I have, might not play him against the Dolphins, and I won't probably play him against the Bulldogs, but I'll play him in that 24, 25, 26. He's 6% owned, and he's going to get overlooked. Like, he hasn't been brought in by that much. He's going to stay a pod, and I think I don't have any hand in the Warriors' awesome draw, and it allows me to do that. So, yeah, like, it's not just because of how he performed on the
I'll throw
weekend.
some numbers there, though. I'll throw some numbers.
I know he's not playing 80, but go for it.
The 80 minutes is a worry, and the other thing that's a worry is when you look at his scores with a try, like the last 2 weeks, he went 76 and 82, which is fine. But before that, he only played 35 minutes, but 45 with a try. 80 minutes, 67 with a try, 60 with a try, 72 with a try, 44 with a try, but it was lower minutes. Like, he's got these tries in him, but his base also could be a bit better and his minutes are a little bit unsturdy. I think that those are the worries for me. Like, if he was playing 80 minutes, Mikey, if I could somehow get on the blower and talk to Webster and for him to give me an assurance, I would really like him, but it might work out that way. So I like him for you. I do.
It's a risky and it's a cash head-to-head play, and I think he has bigger upside than someone like Yo, and the play is to get someone with bigger upside that I can use if I need him to. If I'm going sturdy and I'm killing the captaincy option to head-to-head, he's my trump card. And I think out of all the second-row options, I think he's got the best ceiling. And look, the Tigers and Knights, he doubled down and he scored points against those weaker matchups. I'm getting him for weaker matchups. And that 76 on the weekend, that try at the end wasn't a line break because it was off a kick. So that if that was a line break, it's a bit higher. And I'm just looking at the edge defenses he's coming up against as a right second rower. Like, Lula was absolutely pissed. The Titans have been leaking a lot on their on their right inside. Parramatta, the same. So it's a simple target for those matchups, and the price is right. If you want Halasima, he's got a B of 15 going into the Titans twice. To me, he's the best way to get apart. Like I've got room for a second rower. So instead of nothing, I just want another string to my cap. And with all these players that keep getting injured, that's why I prefer not nothing yet and grabbing guys that I can actually use. And as I said, like I'll probably play Halasima over a guy like Crichton this week, or even Tedesco if I hold him. Just might seem absolutely ludicrous, but if I'm buying him, I'm playing him against the Titans. It's as simple as that. They're so bad at the moment.
Oh, you got to play him against the Titans. What about my friend Jeremiah Nanai at 484,000? 484,000 playing in Townsville versus the Dragons. He does still have the Knights and Tigers and Eels to go after next week's Sharks game. I find it very risky because of his low scores, but he's due to score some big ones, Mikey. And against the Dragons edge in Townsville, it's very cheap.
Yeah, I think he wasn't playing, if I was right, he wasn't playing second row last week. Like, wasn't he? I'm trying to have a look at it now, but he's back on the edge. They've done a little bit of a shuffle. I'm just trying to find.
They put Duffy at 6 and Purdue's back in the centres along with Labour. So,
like, I prefer Clifford in the halves. Obviously, like I think he will come back. And the main thing why I don't mind that play, the price is right. He does have the potential to score those tries, which you want him to. But the Cowboys do need to win their games on the run home. Like, they're getting to the point now where they still technically, mathematically have a chance. I don't think they'll make the 8, but their draw isn't too bad. So they are going to have to win games. So that's also, I expect them to have a decent week this week. Look, the Dragons have been pretty good. The Dragons, like, they've been performing way better than I gave them, like, any credit for, especially with the amount of injuries and people outs that they have. So
They
I don't
have
think
been.
it's as easy as people
Townsville is
think,
a pretty tough trek for him as well.
So
I think
100%. So yeah, I rate it. Like I just think this week, like with Colomatangi out, I'd be looking at some pods because as we just named 4 decent pods at decent prices that you can pick up in that position. Like, you know, of course, if you don't have like a big guy like Hudson Young or even Angus Crichton, yeah, I'd probably get them instead. But there's options there if you do want to make a move and grab a pod. And at this point, if I can grab a pod, I'll grab one.
I don't really like the Teague Wilton talk very much. He does this every year when people decide that he might bust out. And each year he goes 58, 56, 60, and he's just mediocre. Before, like this season, he's got so many... 17% of his games this year, he's gone 60 plus. 17% of his 12 games, he's managed a 60 plus score. And he's played 80 minutes in all of them except for one where he got injured for 24 minutes. So, like, I just think that he's a bit of a spud for Supercoach. Not in real life. Don't want to offend Wilton or his family, but I'm not a fan of that one. I think there's some better ones. But if you look at the Sharks team, Mikey, if we just digress a little bit, you talk about a guy that can have some low scores. You know, I've talked about Ronnie Militalo, and I'm going to talk about him again. At 408,000, playing Souths this week with the Sharks draw, I think he's going to score a try. He hasn't scored a try since round 12. He is well and truly due. And the other winger as well. I always like getting Katoa for little spurts. And Katoa as well is now only 487,000. And he is due as well. Has got the 31 on the weekend, so he's still got a pretty high break even at 70. One of those wingers, I don't know which one. This is the lottery of Supercoach. But, Mikey, I'm going to put to you one of those wingers, Katoa or Mulitalo, is going to go on a 3 to 5 round run of scoring a lot of tries and scoring a lot of points. I just don't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah, I definitely think if you had the trade, you want to have one piece of that Sharks backline. I've got Ramian. He's been named after that hamstring injury. Probably not going to play him this week because of that, but I'm just getting the point, like, I'd love to play him. I think last week, Casey McLean scored a double on that left side, so they're right edge. So I do like Talakai and Mulitalo this week. I think Mulitalo will score a double. I've kept saying the same thing. I think he's going to score a try, but it has to come. He's a prolific try scorer, and he's going to score him in a bunch. And he come home with a wet sail last year. I think he can do it again. Like, if you're looking at the issue is there's just so many good center wings that you can take a punt on, and we just don't have the room. That's what I'm struggling with, and that's why right now, that's why I'm preferring to pot up elsewhere, because it's just, I think if you don't have guys like Lomax, I'd be looking that way. And even I'd prefer an injured toe against a lot of these other guys. That might be my inner pant the talking, but that's the way I'm looking at it at this point. But yeah, definitely one of those Sharks wingers are going to go bang on the run home. I agree with you.
Yeah, and when you're looking at downgrades, it really is team dependent on how much money do you need to make other moves. Because if your second player is absolutely must have gun like a Cleary, and to do that you need to get a Mulitalo in. Well, I do think it's probably worth it, and you can have a bit of a punt and have some fun. We should do some TLT, Mikey. The first game we have the Roosters and the Storm on Thursday night at Allianz Stadium. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I've already said that I think that Tedesco can have a good game. A vice captaincy, I think it's well and truly fine to vice captain Tedesco in this one to try and go for a bounce back, because I'm not saying that because I was half mucking around before. I do think that he can turn up this week, and I've got a good feeling about it. But look, it's more that we're normally seeing 25% of super coaches captaining Tedesco each week. This is a week where not only will people not captain him because he's a first game, but I think the vice captaincy numbers will be way down on him as what they normally are. And that provides a bit of an opportunity if he does go back.
You know my thoughts. I'm going to say the complete opposite for this one. I won't be playing Tedesco if I keep him. And secondly, although I understand what Barnesy said, I just think a week where you can not captain Tedesco and take a chance on someone else and make up ground on the ones that do, I think this is a good week not to and not be super worried. You get to that Manly game next week, you're going to have something on him. Same with the Dolphins game, you probably want to have something on him. So this is an opportunity to try and get to those things to move to someone else. I would prefer Jerome Hughes as a VC in this one over him. I know Barnesy would say otherwise, but that's how I see it at the moment. But yeah, look, I can definitely see it working out, but not for me. It's good because one of us are going to be right this week.
Well, I'm probably not going to vice captain. I'll probably wait vice captain Teddy
Yeah.
because there's some other good ones that are coming up here. I just think that he's an option.
Yeah.
The Cowboys and Dragons is the second game, so my vice captain is going to be very, very likely Scott Drinkwater. I really like him in this one, and everyone's clamoring towards an Edwards buy. If you haven't owned Scott Drinkwater, this might be actually the week to zag away from Edwards and go for a Scotty Drinkwater. I love him this week. He's obviously got the goal kicking as a flaw. It is in Townsville. It is a must win. And I have to say, despite how poorly the Cowboys seem to play, Drinkwater still keeps putting up numbers. Like, he scored 87 on the weekend, and I thought they were atrocious against the Dolphins. So, I mean, that's quite comforting. He hasn't played the Dragons yet this year. In his prior games versus them, he's got a 78 average, which is quite high for his averages as well.
He's had a real good month as far as Supercoach goes, and right now I have the VC on him as well. Having a look at the numbers and stuff like that, I thought he'd be a bit higher. Hughes has actually taken up a little bit of a chunk of the VC, and same as Tedesco, like he always does. But it is only early, but yeah, really like Drinky in this one. And like I said, the Dragons have been good, but he's been performing well. Like, imagine if the Cowboys actually click and they have a big game, then his ceiling is going to be over 100 at this point in the season with stacked sides. For me, I'm going to need a 120 plus to consider it, which I know is huge. Just this week, especially with Cleary on the horizon, like, you're going to need a lot to then sacrifice one of these players. Like I said, like the fact that I'm potentially looking to sit out Tedesco if I have him, like, just tells you that it's really tough to pick a 17 or 18, I should say.
It is very tough. The Broncos and the Eels fight out the next game. This one's at Suncorp. And I think the only one that sort of stands out for me is that a few people took a bit of a punt on Reece Walsh a couple of weeks ago when Pappenhausen was out of that big buy, mini buy round. And look, he has done well against the Eels in the past. 77 is right up there in his top 5 averages, and 123 is his high. And he doesn't actually have many 120 plus games. So, playing para at Suncorp, if you do have Reece Walsh, I never really like it these days because some of those stats before, Mikey, he had the goal kicking.
Yeah, I don't like it as much compared to the other options on the table, but you kind of alluded to it earlier. I think the Eels can upset the Brisbane in this one too, which I think is crazy. Like, I know Moses is just coming back from the injury, but apart from the past month, like, Broncos have had games where they've lost games that they should have won. And, they had the bye last week. Can they come straight back off it? Like, potentially. A lot of people think they're going to charge home and really try and shake up for a top 4 spot. Yeah, potentially. They've got a lot to play for too, but I'm just sniffing, like, in my tipping comps, if I want to take a bit of a risk this week, like, I am looking at that game and I'm thinking, this is a winnable game for the Eels, which, might seem crazy to some, but I definitely think so.
The Warriors and the Titans. Look, I feel like that I want lots of the Warriors in my team, but I don't know which ones I don't think you can captain anyone in this one. So it's a little bit of a tough one, but I will say downgrade wise, some guys that we didn't mention, Watani Zalesniak has been, we know he can be terrible, but he's 350,000. So, I mean, like, for example, people are downgrading to the Bulldogs winger. If you had the extra 150K, which I know 150K sounds like a lot, but the difference between 200 and 350, 350 you can actually use DWZ for a couple of games. He's got 2 games left against the Titans, including this week. So that's what we're talking about, Mikey, when we go hand grenade, I need to win this week in my head-to-head. DWZ, I'm going to bank on a double. And he well and truly could do it this week. The other guy that I really like is expensive, but not that expensive, is in Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. So, I mean, those 2 wingers against the Titans this week playing in New Zealand, they look good. I just don't really see a captaincy option for me.
Yeah, I don't see a captaincy option either. You heard what I said earlier with the Halasima, with the free game run that they have in the head-to-head finals. That's why getting an RTS and talent could 100% help you out. The handy one too, like, I know Campbell might have been a bit underwhelming, but I'm struggling not to play him this week. He's last time he played him, yes, it was at the Gold Coast, but he hit 170. 93 the game before that. He loves to play the Warriors, and the Warriors nearly lost to the Knights last week. So could this be, I reckon Titans are going to upset one team on the run home. They got absolutely belted by Hazard. Couple of strange, like, David Feeder's nowhere near there. The down Tino, law of average probably says they're going to get pumped. But just for me, I'm finding it hard not to play him with just the ceiling that he has done in the past. So That's just where I'm at. It's hard not to play a guy that hit 170 against him last year. I know they're a different team last year, but I look at those things and I just go, he does have that ceiling on his day, and that's what
He's
you
also
want
got
to
a
carry
9 in
him.
him as well. So I'm hopeful
He
as a
does.
non-owner that people play him for the 9 this week, and that's what
Yeah.
happens.
If, say I copped an early HIA, then I probably would switch it. But if I don't, and my plays are scoring well, then we've got the flex now. You can go for these guys that have the high ceilings. So yeah, I'll probably be playing him this week.
Panthers, Tigers, quite obviously we have Nathan Cleary and Dylan Edwards as 2 options. I don't actually think that I could go Dylan Edwards this week because he plays too late in the week for the VC for me.
Unless you weren't getting Cleary.
Yeah, but if you were, yeah, but even still, like Cleary's, you'd imagine Cleary's going to have the goal kicking back. So,
I reckon he won't. I really reckon Edwards. Yeah, I think Edwards might. Maybe they just give him one more week. Like he's come back off the rest. Maybe they give him one more week. Like I don't think it's guaranteed that he's going to take it. Like he will at some point, but I guess whether or not he takes it will tell us where he's at. But maybe they just want
to. That's a big deal even for Cleary because if Cleary doesn't have the goal kicking, all of a sudden that's a bit cold feet on. Do I really want to captain Cleary coming back from injury, not goal kicking? It'd be nice if they actually told us who was goal kicking before this game kicked off.
Well, he scored 80 in his last match in 60 minutes. To be honest, if he doesn't kick goals, it doesn't bother me because like just the pedigree that I think he can still have. I think he'll get involved enough to not need it. But yeah, I guess all the times I've captained Career this year, they haven't been slam dunk. So yeah, I'll be doing it. But yeah, there's a world where I think if you for some reason weren't going to grab Cleary this week, maybe you could chuck it on Edwards and hope that what I said's right. But look, I'm just I've got no concrete evidence here. It's just a feeling. That's all.
I'm just going to make a passing comment before we move on to the other game that people were bringing in Taylor May. And he's now dropped out of the top 10, but people are still trading him. Can I just tell everybody, go back to last year when he played 8 games of first grade and look at his scores and then just think about it. Rabbitohs and the Sharks. This is the other option here, okay? If you want to captain a halfback, do you have the balls to go, forget about Cleary versus the Tigers. I want some Nico wet hair action against the Rabbitohs. And I'm actually starting to lean towards that because of that goal kicking issue that I don't know whether Cleary will kick or not. Nico has looked really good last couple of weeks, 77 and 137. And this is a game here where it's got points written all over it versus the Rabbits. In the past, he's got a 71 average and a 115 high. That's not great in the scheme of Nico Hines, but Souths look pretty undermanned. It is away, not at Shark Park, so it could have been better. But he's a genuine option, mate.
Yeah, the Bunnies just continue to lose soldiers. They've lost Colin Matangi, and I think they'll get belted. I rate it. This is one of the things that I really liked about getting Cleary in my flex this week and having the 3 is I think the ultimate play this week is a VC Cleary and C Hines, and not many people are going to be able to do it at all. So if I was to do that move, which, as I said, I haven't decided yet, I would probably do a VC Cleary into C Hines, and with a lot of the centre wings that I have playing late, it enabled me to still leap with Herbie jumping in. So, yeah, look, it's tough between those two because really the more that you look at it, it's just more so Hines has had a really good 2 weeks. Does it continue? Like, that's all. He scored 3 tries in the past fortnight, and that kind of worries me a little bit. But the Bunnies, I think they're going to need do a lot to avoid the spoon. Like, obviously, Titans would need to win a game, but they're in contention.
Yeah. I think the last 2 months with Hines, I think that he's looked a lot more comfortable. I think he's run the ball a lot more, and it hasn't always come off, but it's come off the last few weeks. But the running has been there, and he's also been a lot sharper with his passing, and you saw that with some of his passes the last couple of weeks. No Nickera there. I don't like that as a Nickera owner, but I also don't love it for Hines as well, I have to say, because Nickera's lines are really good and Hines hits him. So that weapon is going to be not there for this week.
Billy Burns, as bad as sometimes he is, he can
he can hit a line
here
too.
And there. So
he can.
That's what it's not the worst replacement for him to have. So I definitely think when you look at it, I think he'll be a pod captain option, Barnesy. Like right now, I'm looking at it for all coaches. He's at 4% compared to Cleary 6.6. So not a big dip, but he will be a pod captain this week. So it's a good play.
Yeah, if you got to chase, if the start of your round is bad and you're chasing head-to-heads, a switch over to Hines as a captain, I reckon could go okay. 5-round average of 85, 3-round of 92. I don't think you'll get a bad score out of him. So, that's decent floor, I think, is definitely there with the upside. The next game is the Raiders and the Knights. Very tough to tell. Like this one's at GIO Stadium, and one of the things with last week is, whilst the Knights were competitive in that heartbreaker versus the Warriors, that was at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. Traveling to Canberra is a whole different thing, and it's hard though because I'm playing all of my Raiders, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I don't own very many, and I wish I owned more. But at the same time, none of them have really been sturdy captain options. Hudson Young obviously stands out because he's had a really good year, but I'd never be really comfortable captaining a Hudson Young, and especially this week with all the fullback and halfback options, I just don't think that you can.
Yeah, the last time their right side absolutely peppered the Knights when they played them. They only played them like not too long ago. Week scored 109 against them. A super play, like I don't have the balls to do it, but a captain play on him, he's got such a low floor, but man, when he's on, he's on. He got denied a late try assist at the end last week, and he's definitely got him. He blitzed him. They blitzed him on that right-hand side, so I definitely think he can do it again. Hudson Young, you couldn't put the captaincy on him. But, yeah, I'll be playing all my Raiders bar Tarpanay. His minutes, 46 last week. I know he scored 68, but just of all the other guys I have, I'm not as scared to sit him out. But obviously,
Tarpanay playing against his last club, by the way, just the club.
I understand.
Unceremoniously left in a bitter feud. So those feelings are always there, Mikey.
That, but if you have a look at his last three scores, 62, 68, 59, I'd rather play the guy that I think can go 80 plus this week. So I personally would be playing Campbell over someone like Tarpanay just because of the ceiling.
All right. Let me just grab my pen. So I just pencil in Tarpanay, first try scorer. Cool. Right, done.
It's not happening, but we'll be paying a lot.
Bulldogs and Manly Seagulls finish it off. Bulldogs, Carraz was the first try scorer last week, and it looked like he was going to be on a bumper score. Then it petered out quite significantly. I'm not sure with this one what to make of it. So why don't you lead the way? I do not know what will happen between the Bulldogs and the Manly Seagulls.
The thing is with Manly is you can never trust them. They're so hot and cold, and after how hot they were last week, it wouldn't surprise me if they were cold, but it does give you the confidence to show you what they've got a lot to play for. They're in the fringe of the 8. They need to win this one. So it is a big game at Allianz. As I said, the Dogs have been good, but they haven't been great. And Manly could sneak away with this one. If I need a pod tip, I'll definitely be looking at Manly. A part of me, like as a Tom owner, could be a sneaky captain. His average at centre is 90. Look, I'm not saying I'm going to do that, but he's been looking pretty good. I could see that as play. I'd be playing every single Manly player I have. I don't look. Lehigh's like 53 last week's pretty solid. I just can't fit him in. It's getting so hard to pick it. Like I really want to play Lehigh. If I have a late in the week, Lehigh will come straight in and he's playing late. So it's also good to look at it. If you're in an arm with some, ensure you save some of these late guys for later in case there is some carnage because we've been copping carnage as like the past month. So. Yeah,
am I right that Kickow is going to be running at DCE?
Yeah, so I didn't play Kickow last week. I know you're a Kickow, and I will be playing Kickow this week. I prioritise it because you've got to target him against who he's running at this week. It's a target side. Manly have been leaking a lot of tries on that side, so it'll be hard for me not to play Kickow. And he got unlucky last week. He could have easily scored 2. So I thought he looked good during the game, but obviously just didn't really. But Supercoach, yeah, I'll be playing him this week over the likes of I have him ahead of even like I'll play him ahead of Crichton if I have to. I've got them both in at the moment, but I think it's hard not to play him because right now you just got to look at target matchups, how much points are leaking, how many tries are leaking in Supercoach. That's what I'm using to make my decisions when I'm torn. I'm
looking for him to isolate DCE and kick out to carry him over for a try. That's why.
Yeah, DCE. I think they'll target DCE for sure. He's been letting in a lot of tries, and I think the Dogs will look at that specifically. So, tick out double on the cards.
Garrick and Tom are going to be on Carraz and Cherry's side. I'm pretty sure. Yes, they will be.
Wait, aren't they on opposite sides? Hasn't Tom been playing on the right, or did he switch to the left last week?
Yeah, Tom's been on the right, and Crichton and Tuala are on the right as well, aren't they? Oh no,
Carraz and Crichton. Right. So Tom's going to be running at Tuala, so it's a great matchup for Tom. The sneaky captain, man. I don't have the balls for it, but man, like I think it could work out. Like 70 last week against the Storm is awesome. He's got a really low break even. That's just why I can't sell him out as an owner.
Crichton's a good defender, though, and Crichton's inside Tuala. So, that might make a difference. Mikey's lost his sound. I've lost my sound. It's all right. I'll finish it off, mate. Thank you very much for jumping on. Appreciate it. Good luck with the week. And you can find Mikey, as always, on the SC Experience Show. For our show, thanks very much for tuning in. Really appreciate all the support. Good luck with the week and the trades. We'll be back with a final thought towards the end of the week, as we always are. Until then, good luck. Enjoy the week. Can't wait to talk more footy again with everyone real soon.
You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. All that matters is only shooting stars.